are now locked into Radio Juxtapoz, the home of contemporary art and culture conversation. Coming up today.
I come from a long line of criminals. You know, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
So if you came from a nice family, like they wouldn't think that's a good idea, Ron. You know, but if your family are all meth dealers, they probably think Ron's almost on the straight and narrow compared to the rest of us, you know?
This is Radio Juxtapoz.
That's right.
You sound very
It's funny, I was on TV this morning, like at 6 in the morning, and the cameraman was auditioning to be on the Rabbits. And it's like, I don't think we're a show yet, dude.
Wait,
but I'm glad you're into it.
Is that how you started today?
Yeah, we
day?
came over at 6, yeah.
For what, like local TV?
Yeah, local TV. So we'll actually be on the news at 5, and we were on the morning show,
So that's how we're going to start this Radio Juxtapoz podcast with Mr. Ron English.
Yeah,
the legendary.
We're at DCon.
We're at DCon.
DCon, yeah.
We are at DesignerCon 2019.
We're deep in the DCon.
We are I'm experimenting with
and I did a collaboration with D-Face at DCon. So
yeah, I was doing a blog post about that the other day, and I had to make sure I got all the
D's in there?
All the D's in there correctly.
Yeah. And my middle name's D, so.
Is it really?
D English, yeah.
What's your middle name?
A lot of D's. D.
It's just literally D?
Well, it's actually fucking. Don't you hear people saying it?
Fucking Ron.
Now, you testify. You saw when people come up to me where they say, my name is.
It's Ron fucking English.
So that's my middle name. I'll show you my license later.
No, actually, walking around with you here, you just got stopped like 3 or 4 times. You've been in this scene. You've seen this scene ebb and flow. You've been part of it. You've been influential to it. But it feels like we're at a big moment again, like where things have gotten more popular.
Well, it's hard to tell. We're here at DCon. That I've seen a lot of artists here that I haven't actually seen for years. So I don't know where they've been or what they've been doing. Maybe they were gobbled up by the fine art world. Now they've been spit out. I couldn't tell you. You actually probably do know. But yeah, like Tim Biscup, Gary Baseman, a lot of those, Camille Rose Garcia, like she quit making toys like 10 years ago.
Right,
and now she's got a new toy, so.
See, I'm the opposite. I think that there's been a renewed energy around buying art in the last couple years, that collectibles are the more approachable thing again, and people really want to get that accessibility back.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just being optimistic.
Okay, well, first, I absolutely never understand what's going on, and nobody's ever accused me of understanding. But I always have a theory, and I'm always proud to spew it. But years ago, I thought, well, this is a really interesting culture. All the buyers are, 20-something designers and things like that, and people in the creative industries. So one day, they're not married. So a lot of them aren't married. So when they get married, like this ends. We're going to hit this tsunami of marriage. And all the wives would be going, are you kidding me? No. and it seemed like that kind of did happen, which is also interesting because we've been doing a lot of stuff in China, and that's a great audience. There's 10 times more people there.
Right.
Like, I do something with a rock star there, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, I don't really know who you are. And he goes, well, do you know who Jay-Z is? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm 10 times bigger than Jay-Z. Just because you don't know me doesn't change any of that, But, no, but they're it's like 80% women that are standing in the lines. And they're, 20-somethings. And so I feel like, okay, well, if the women are buying it, then we're safe. Because then people can marry their collections instead of one going, no way,
Is that something that you would say is a particular trait in Asia, or is it here too?
No, that was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here it's still boys?
Oh, no, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the first Comic-Cons, and it was comic books. And they were not women, And one of the very early ones, in San Diego, I have a character called Cathy Cal Girls. So I got a Vegas stripper, and I painted her with the cow dots or whatever, and put big breast on her, and she already had big breasts, but I put the nipples on her, and so I just wanted to promote the character, and we were selling a lenticular. It was actually amazing, but the production cost us so much, but it actually animated. She walked by full color, but it cost $20,000 a piece to make. So, like, our market at the time wasn't going to sustain something like that. But anyway, so I had her there to help promote Cathy, and she started getting mobbed. I mean, bad. And I kept trying to hand people a card. This is who the character is. We're trying to sell this. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
They were just oogling her. And my wife was with me, and she was going, if you ever do this again, she needs like 10 bodyguards. So, but then after that, the anime came in, and a lot more women got involved, and that part of Comic-Con is kind of over.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with Alex Pardee earlier today, and we were talking about, is this scene, because I'm always looking for, like, what's the historical lineage of this? We can talk about street art, and there's a lot of ways to kind of explain where it came from and what it came out of, but this particular scene, is it comic books?
No.
Is that the origin? No.
No. What happened was they came up with the technology to do roto casting, and a lot of it was for a couple purposes. One is to maybe a part of your injection plastic mold, there has to be some weird part that has to be a little more softer vinyl to fit in there. So they were using it for that, and then they were also using it to create prototypes so that executives, could look at stuff. So, like, if you think if it costs $60,000 to make an injection mold, that's probably a lot of money to put something together, put it on an executive's desk, and him go, "Could you make the tail turn the other way?"
I see what you're saying.
Okay, well, let's drop another 60 and we'll make that happen,
Right,
sir.
right.
And how about your assistant? He has some changes too. So, but it also created.
But when does this go back to?
Oh,
What years?
It starts with Eric. So it's been about 15 years. It
Okay.
hasn't been that really long.
Okay.
And I think it was Eric. Well, Michael Lau is the one I'm friends with. So he said, yeah. So he realizes there was this technology,
Okay.
and he thought, I'm going to exploit it in a different way than they're using it now. Because also another thing I can do is I can make small runs of toys. So he started making these small runs, running it out of his apartment or his studio. So kids would line up for blocks, they would buy them, and they're sold out. The gardeners.
How was that communication happening?
I'm not sure how he was getting to his fans.
Yeah, that's part of this. I'm so
yeah.
fascinated with. Is that part of this?
Well, back then it was the early days of the internet, so he was probably one of the early people to use the
Newsletters or
internet.
whatever.
Yeah. And people tell each other.
Right.
But anyway, then some companies started wanting to do it, and then they decided, well, let's do it in America. And first they got kind of a lot of, I guess it's graffiti artists, right? And because they thought, well, what's the hottest thing? Well, graffiti. So they didn't really have characters. So they tried to do kind of stuff, and it was kind of falling flat. And then I think they said, well, we still want to be involved in this culture. And somebody said, you should look to the pop surrealist.
Okay.
Because the pop surrealists have characters in their paintings.
Exactly,
A lot of them
yeah.
have repetitive characters. So,
Absolutely.
So I think I actually met Lev at Toy Tokyo, and then he did Super Size Me, or the
Right.
Super Size figure.
Yeah.
But then they realized that then that's when all the pop surrealists became a part of the movement. So the American vinyl movement was a lot of the pop surrealists in the beginning.
Yeah, because my first entree into toy culture would have been like kind of the only two graffiti guys that were having characters would be like Futura and Cause and like the bounty hunter Japanese scene.
Right. Yeah, Bounty Hunter was one of the early guys.
And
so we would go over and do stuff with them.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we really even had toys yet. So.
Right. Okay. But your relationship to this scene grew out of the fact that you had characters to be made.
Right.
Right.
And so, they asked me to make stuff. So I did Ronnie Rabbit for Dark Horse. I did MC Supersized for Lev. But, he didn't actually promote it. He sold it under the table because he was super scared of getting sued by McDonald's, which I
Right.
kept saying, I'm not going to sue you. They're not going to sue you.
Right.
It's my character. I own the copyright to it. It's
Right.
not, unless they want to say, oh, yeah, this is actually what McDonald's does to you, then that's not going to happen.
Which
but
they're not going to admit to.
Right. I did one with Kid Robot, but it had 3 tits, and they nixed it and never came out.
Okay.
Actually came out years later when I was more famous and that they could make money off of it. Little fuckers. But anyway, that was kind of, so the scene had already kind of begun when I was in it. And they already had their rules. Like, they first said, well, if you want to be part of this scene, Ron, the dynamic is kind of cute with a little edge of threatening, but not too much. No politics, absolutely no politics, and no sex. But I figured, well, I'm not going to make a career out of this. I got
Right.
this other career, painting or whatever. But this sounds like a lot of fun. But of course I'm going to do sex, and of course I'm going to do politics. That's who I am. But and what kind of delighted me was, well, also as you look forward into the culture, I thought the culture is going to get bigger. A lot more people are going to get involved instead of this small, nerdy little crowd. And I'm sorry, in the beginning they were. When I did Cathy Cal Girls, they freaked out. They were like, this is horrible, this is sexual, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, first I thought, wow, they're hipsters,
Right.
And then I realized, wow, these guys aren't hipsters, they're nerds.
Right.
They're anal retentive little fucking nerds. But I thought, but this is too cool. I know the culture is going to grow.
Right.
So the first one I actually produced myself, not through another company, was Fat Tony. And because it was, addressing the obesity situation in the United States and the contamination of our food and yada yada and the cereal, I got in time. I got on NPR. So the first day we sold like 7,000, then we just kept selling and selling after that. So I kind of I said, I'm not going to play the game the way you guys play it. I think it's going to get bigger, and I think that the fact that I do politics and bigger social issues is going to actually make me bigger.
You have been at the forefront of some really nerdy shit in terms of Burning Man, which to me is nerdy. I don't care what anyone said.
I'm nerdy.
Comic-Con.
Yeah.
I know, but you also you kind of got in before there was any. I shouldn't say nerdy. I should say cult followed things.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Because nerdy kind of isn't quite right.
Right.
But those moments when you're kind of around your friends and colleagues and people, contemporaries, and these things are happening, do you kind of ever take a step back and be like, I think something's happening here? Or are you kind of more just in the moment and that's just how you're going to do things?
Well, I mean, I did Billboards. I kind of fell backwards into that because
yeah, right.
I was doing photographs, and I was part of a scene called Fabricated to be Photographed. Maybe the most famous person that came out of that was Cindy Sherman, right? But I was still in school, and so I kind of got swept into that, and I didn't really understand that scene.
Correct?
Yeah. So I didn't understand that scene was like something that was getting attention and even existed. But it's kind of like dogma in film, where you have like certain rules that you have to live by. With the photography, whatever was going on had to be really happening. So I tried to make weird perspective tricks happen and stuff that would be impossible. So I existed in that space doing that. But when I started including billboards in the shots, I wanted the billboards to address what was going on in the foreground, so I had to go repaint the billboards. So I'm running around Dallas repainting the billboards, but as props for my photos.
Right.
Because whatever the thing is, when you look at a Ron English photo, that's what's really happened. Figure out how he did it. And it may have been, perspective tricks, or it may have just been repainting the whole billboard.
Right.
But the other young painters who were kind of locked out of the system, because back then it was pre-Keith Haring and stuff, so an artist wasn't really going to have their first show till they were in their 30s, and we were way too impatient for that.
Yeah, there's that whole idea that a young artist having a solo show in New York was not a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just exploding then. Yeah. The East Village had a lot to do with that because it was run by young people. And also they felt locked out of that scene. So a lot of that culture of the early 80s came from youth culture that was locked out of the scene.
Yeah,
we didn't have the patience to wait. But they saw the billboards. It's like, my God, we can have these giant outdoor art shows. And believe me, when you're 19 years old or 17 years old, you're not thinking about money yet.
Right.
You're just thinking, I want to make art and I want people to see it.
Right. Right. And there's also this idea, too, that you're really good with, is that not everybody can afford an expensive painting. So in order to sustain kind of a long career, you kind of have to find ways for people to be able to buy your creativity in a way.
Right.
And it's not just a painting. And it never has been for you, which is, I think, you've kind of you created a blueprint, I think, for other people.
Well, I just wanted to do stuff.
Right.
And I mean, I was just talking to a young artist 5 minutes ago. I can't afford to do this. I can't afford to do that. And, I wasn't going to tell them. It's like, dude, when I was like 19, I wanted to paint every billboard in Texas. How am I going to afford to do that?
Right.
I mean, I couldn't possibly afford to rent even one of them. How am I going to afford to paint it? I mean, I'm going to paint them. It's going to be cheaper if I just paint them myself. So I figured out that the billboard company has like 40 trucks. They load them all up with paint. And then in the morning, they load them up at night, and then the guys come in the morning, jump in the trucks, get their coffee, and they drive to the location, and they've already been stocked with all the paint they're going to need for the day.
Right. Okay.
3 gallons of every kind of color they have.
Okay.
So we would drive down there and break in and just unload all the trucks into like a big van, fill it up, or my pickup truck, fill up the whole back till you couldn't see out of the back. So I always had hundreds of gallons of paint. But I got it because I was stealing it, what I mean?
You were like, I want to do this, so I'm just going to do it.
I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I come from a long line of criminals. It's kind of like, but
you
do have social pressure in your life. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you came from a nice family, like they wouldn't think that's a good idea, Ron. But if your family are all meth dealers, they probably think Ron's almost on the straight and narrow compared to the rest of us.
Yeah. What did you have family that you were showing them? Hey, I'm doing these billboards and these sculptures. I'm doing this whole thing.
Yeah.
Did you have family that was like, Ron, what the fuck are you doing? Or Ron, this makes sense.
They didn't think much about it. I made paintings for my uncles, the meth dealers, and they lost them or traded them, or I don't know what they did with them, and I don't know. They just didn't. At one time, my dad just, he just thought of some lost cause. And then one time he saw me on TV and he said, "Wow, I saw you on the TV." It's like, you're somebody, right? And so it's evidently, that's what, like, kind of actually the moment I realized, wow, TV's very powerful. It kind of changes people's minds.
Well, also,
I mean, that's our president. It's like, why do we have a president? It's like everybody saw him on TV. They thought that's who he really was.
Also, I think when you started, the idea of being an artist, it wasn't really something that everybody was like, that makes sense. Nowadays, it's like you can tell somebody that you're going to be an artist or you're doing an artistic practice, and it seems a little bit more common. But I could be wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
Okay.
No, but there was nothing we could do. There was very few outlets, for an artist. Now there's a million outlets. Right. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I don't know if having access through Instagram or something, makes your art life easier, or maybe there's more competition and more people want to be an artist. So
right.
I don't really know what it's like to be a young artist now. It seems like it's easier, but I don't know. Maybe it's way harder.
You were already well established by the time social media came around. So you didn't ever have to have that pressure of like, this is my only avenue.
Well, our social media was underground magazines and stuff.
Right.
So, how did I know who the BLF was? Well, because there were these weird underground publications that we would try to get our hands on, and then they would talk about this group in San Francisco, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. You know? But it took us literally 20 years to meet.
Right.
We finally met, and we started doing billboards together.
That's
how I met him.
Yeah.
Somehow he sent some crate to my house. He figured out where I was. He sent it to my loft. They said, I'm going to do a stunt. My name is John Law, and I'm going to do I'm sorry, his name was Jack Napier back then.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a thing in New York, and I'm like, I don't know who the hell you are. And, but he showed up at my house, and then we became best friends and started doing stuff together. And
when did you become, like, aware of, like, the Robert Williams?
Well, I knew who
path.
Robert Williams was when I was in high school.
Okay. Because of the Zaps?
Well, we lived in a very small town, and the Zap Comics was like a porthole to another world.
Right.
So my big ambition in high school was to, I wasn't smart enough to want to be Gilbert Shelton. I wanted to be Fat Freddy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to sell weed and live in San Francisco. So I had no concept of the...
Did you ever sell weed and live in San Francisco?
I never lived in San Francisco.
Okay.
Never lived in L.A. Yeah, although everybody thinks I'm from L.A. It's funny, yeah. But...
I would have thought you would have lived in San Francisco for even a couple years in that late 70s era.
No, I went to Austin.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which was kind of a wannabe
Again, you're
San
one of the
Francisco.
early people in Austin.
Yeah. I gentrified a lot of places.
I blame you for Hoboken.
Deep Ellum is now blowing up, but we started Deep Ellum in the early 80s. So Theater Gallery, I used to have shows there. REM would play at the opening and stuff.
Yeah.
And also we would get giant warehouses and show giant pieces of art. I mean, I don't think anybody ever sold anything. Oh, one of my favorite times was I worked at a photo lab blowing up these big murals, right? So we called the show One Shot because we were just sort of giving everybody one shot at showing some giant art or something. Yeah. And we were printing it at work, these pictures of these handguns with scopes. So they were just designed to kill people, And so I thought that was kind of interesting. So I put it all over I put a huge mural of it on the front of the... in front of the warehouse. It's like in downtown Dallas, right in downtown Dallas, with big picture windows in the front. So I covered all the picture windows with that. We had our show. A guy had a giant painting just on the other side of the windows on the inside. Of course, it wasn't a real art show, so it lasted till about 2 or 3 in the morning. And then we all said, oh, we know this all-night cafe, let's go there. And the owners went upstairs, or the cats that lived there went upstairs. And about 10 minutes after we cleared the place and went to the cafe, some rednecks came by and just with shotguns just blew the whole front windows out. But if we would have all been there, like a lot of us would have been dead. So, but they just saw that one shot, and they were probably drunk and in their pickup truck, and let's take our one shot. So
that makes me feel like that's a
interactive
performance art.
Yeah,
sort of.
They did to one of my billboards one time. They shot it full of holes. Yeah, but at least they were noticing it. I was happy about that.
You're a political artist. In many different ways, sometimes quite literally, sometimes like a little bit more playful and a little bit hidden. What's going on right now when you're making art that's political, do you feel like it's almost everything's so obvious now? It's harder to make political commentary. Like we've hit this part where like, the joke is actually happening.
I don't know. I don't know if the joke is happening. I mean, everything makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
But I do know that I'm getting messed with by robots. You know, that things are happening to me because robots are deciding that I'm bad. You know, which is kind of weird. I don't get press like I used to. So, like, I'm literally building a wall on the Canadian border and building this huge wall along the southern border, and we get nothing. Nobody wants to touch it.
Now, why is that?
I don't know, because I can't get into somebody else's mind. But I do get the feeling, especially being down there, you know, they said, we're scared. We're really scared.
Okay.
And, yeah, because I was like, you know, can I buy this land or rent this land from you? And at first they're excited and, we really want to make a statement. And then they're like, no, we don't. I've seen some very powerful people back down, because there is a kind of fear that's kind of permeated our society, and nobody wants to be associated with the stuff I do now.
Right. And because...
But, I have more wall than Trump does, I'm winning. I have a different theme to my wall and a different purpose, but...
Does it feel like... Making a comment about Trump now just seems too obvious, and it has to be...
Well, I think it's too easy, and I do find that some of my other activist friends, like if I sit with them and say, we can't talk about Trump anymore, we have to pick a candidate or some platform of the Democratic Party because that's all we're going to get, and we need to start promoting it viciously. That's what we did with Obama. It worked with Obama because the basic concept was, well, they called us, and they said, well, we want like eight top street artists or whatever, like, so they got David Cho, Shepard Fairey, myself. But we realized that if we do it, then all these other street artists are going to do it. And also you create the dynamic of this is a winner. And I hate to say it, but people want to support a winner.
Absolutely.
No, they do. They want to be on the winning side.
Right.
And if it feels like it's a winning side, this is what we're doing. I don't want to be the only guy that go, I didn't like him, or whatever. Right. You don't want to be left out of something,
right.
So we kind of played that dynamic, but everything was positive. And, of course, I do all my snotty stuff. Like I did one of John McCain, and he's at a rally, and it says, I want to get erected. And then it says, sponsored by Pfizer.
Right.
But, I mean, I did a lot of smart-looky stuff, and the campaign called me and said, stop it. I mean, we can't tell you what to do, but if you stopped it, that would be helpful, because we think that just staying positive is the way to make this work. And then so I dropped all that, just did Abraham Obama. But it worked, because staying positive and being for something, not against something. Because, okay, here's the thing with Trump. Like, have you ever watched The Sopranos?
Yes.
Okay, did you root for Tony?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tony is a brain-damaged, psychopathic horror show, dumbass, mobster from Jersey. He's everything you would possibly hate in a person.
But you root
the
for
most
him.
despicable because they introduced him first.
Right.
And I knew when Trump came down that escalator, because nobody had really announced and put themselves out there in a big way yet, I thought, fuck, he just won.
Right.
He just won because he just made it the Trump show.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what he came down and said, saying crazy stuff. It worked. And I was arguing with my friends at the time that they were like, they cover every tweet. They cover every tweet. We're just sucking on Donald's tweets, And it's like, you don't have to cover every tweet. You do not have to cover every tweet because he says crazy stuff. Yeah. End. But, he says, oh, no, he's a presidential candidate. Everything he says is very important. So we have to cover every tweet, which means now he controls the news cycles.
Right.
And he knows. He's smart enough to know. Now, this is interesting. I'm friends with his ex-producer, right? And once I said, hey, well, is he a genius?
Yeah,
she said, of course not. He can't even read. And then she looked stunned and stared into space for a minute, and she goes, oh, my God, he is. He is a genius. Nobody on planet Earth understands the business of the media better than he does. He knows you just got to stay on. You have to stay in the game, stay in the news, stay in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we went through the years, the early years with Obama, where it was like the creative class really got behind him.
Yes.
And then this candidate is the complete opposite of the creative class.
They went against him.
And it's like but he is his own vessel.
Right.
For news. And
everything is about him. Everything is about him. And a lot of the stuff he does is super, super smart. If you told me now, it's like, okay, we got to end this interview because, the New York Times is covering this and they want like a couple quotes for me about the toy world. As soon as you said the New York Times, my brain goes, fake news.
Right.
Now, I don't think that, but they put that meme in my head. It's like you say, New York Times, fake news.
Even though he loves the New York Times.
Oh, he likes anything that lauds him, you know.
Yeah. Right.
But he also figured out, and maybe he didn't figure it out himself, but he sometimes, being a genius, just rolling with stuff that's working for you, So the Russians did the original fake news, and they really went for him. I mean, like if they're buying an apartment off of you for 100 times what it's worth, it's like you're their guy, Yeah, maybe there's some P-tapes. I don't know. Like the one thing that would kind of like I remember like the grab her by the pussy thing or whatever, they thought he's done.
Right.
But because I was talking to my old homeboys from high school, I thought, no, he ain't done. He just said, I'm a rock star and I get to do whatever I want. Don't you wish you were me? That's what they heard.
Right.
Everybody else heard is like, this guy's a creep.
Right.
But that's not what they heard. They heard that this guy's David Lee Roth.
Right.
Yeah. So everything the liberals thought that they had him on, no, that's a superpower. But even Trump thought that the women were going to take him down. He says, if you guys run me, which I'm into, but I just want you to understand that this is maybe the thing that trips it up. Because I'm a hornbag. I do what I want. But they weren't even smart enough to realize, no, they'll think this is superpower. They're not going to think this is bad. They're going to think this is good. And even the women think it's good. Because, I'd do him as a billionaire,
Right.
So they were all, he talks smack good. So do we. No, I mean, he did everything. Some stuff just magically worked out, Hillary was a bad candidate. Again, we were for Bernie. Bernie's like a real revolution. He's the real deal. So, we were raising money for him and supporting him. And then, then he got thrown under the bus, and then we contacted the campaign, and we said, we have called Shepard Fairey, we've called all the original 8 that did the Obama thing, and everybody has agreed that we are going to get behind you, and we're going to go out there on the streets, and we're going to promote the hell out of Hillary Clinton. You in. And she said, no, you guys supported the wrong candidate last night. It's like, I don't need you. Goodbye.
Yeah, see, that doesn't...
Now, that's the wrong thing. You can never think I got this.
Well,
I got this.
I like this because this goes back to the power of the creative class, the makers, the DIYers, like the people here. Like, there's a power to this group of people.
Well, you know knew how to use the creative class, right? Fucking Hitler.
Yeah, he was good.
No, he was optics because he started off as an artist. And a lot of times they just, to their detriment, they dismiss the creative class. And I would say 90% of the creative class are liberals,
Right, yeah, for sure.
You're going to have a hard time finding some artists that are going to support Trump or Hitler or anybody that's a totalitarian.
Right.
Because they're not that way. They're into freedom. But yeah, he used them, and he used them well, you know?
And I feel like Obama was the first time in my lifetime where I was like, oh, that is using the creative class to energize and to create materials for you and to create campaigns for you, not even authorized, is very effective.
Oh, no, but the unauthorized thing was brilliant. That was Lincoln. He gave people a lot of access to him. You could come photograph me, and that's when you had to sit like for a long, minute, and it was not as fun to be photographed.
Lincoln did this.
Yes, and he said, look, if everybody's got a picture of me on their wall, they're going to vote for me. So I'm going to give artists, they can come, and, and it's fine. If they want to go make daguerreotypes of me or whatever and sell them and make some dough, I don't care. Because that's going to push my image out there, and it's going to make me seem, I'm going to be a part of people's lives through, all these photographers and artists.
Wow, that's similar. I mean, it's not similar, but it's in the same sense. Hitler was one of the first people to use TV.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But he also stage managed everything.
Well, of course.
But somebody, a despot, a normal despot would not be able to
By the way, I
conceive.
don't want to put Lincoln and Hitler in the same category.
Yeah, okay.
I apologize.
Well, I think there's also a problem in society. It's like, some people are going to destroy the world. Some people are going to save the world. But to get your agenda out there, you have to have techniques, And so I think you can never just say that person's evil, so everything that they used to get to where they were at was evil. I'm going to throw away their whole toolbox. Do you see what I mean? And I think sometimes that's a mistake, But then again, like, I read an interview with one of the guys that does fake news, not like one of the Russian guys, but like an American that's in the business of doing fake news, and he gets into it because he can make money off of it. And I don't think he makes a lot of money, but he has a nice house in the suburbs and stuff. So originally, he made some fake news, got some ads, got some money, and then started hiring other people to write fake news articles for him. but he's a liberal, right? So in the interview, they go, well, why don't you mess with the Republicans? And he goes, oh, no, we tried. You know, it works on the. I'm sorry. Why don't you mess with the liberals? And he said, yes, we tried. When we put out an article, it's like Hillary has killed people. The right wingers just jump all over it, and they're just like, oh, they don't care about sourcing or anything. They're just like, I knew she did stuff like that. Now, but if you go the other direction, you said, well, it turns out that Trump has actually killed 19 prostitutes, and blah blah blah. And, of course, it's fake. Liberals, so he says, look, they just go, what's your source? That doesn't sound right. What's your source? You show me what your source is, and if it's not a legitimate source, we're not. And they're just like, that's what liberals are like. Boy, even if I'm just like, I get one fact wrong, all my friends jump all over me. Oh, no, that's not right, Ron. You can't put one fact into the formula, even if it's just you missed it, by 100,000 when you're talking about 5 million. Right. No, wrong, wrong. So they're not susceptible to it. And so I'm not gonna. So he said, I'm not gonna make any. I'm not going to make any of this fake news for liberals because they don't buy it and they don't spread it, so it doesn't work on them. So I'm not going to make any money. So yeah, I feel kind of bad, but I'm making some money, So it's interesting. So it worked on one side. So whatever our side, it's not going to work for us. We're not going to disseminating fake news is not going to help us.
Right.
Of course, none of us know what is going to help us. But the problem is, okay, let's say. Half of my family's from Iran, right? So this happened to them. And so our relatives are going, do you understand what is going on in your country right now? And we're like, yes. No, but you're not taking this serious. It's like, actually we are, but most of them aren't. Most of them are just enjoying the ride and thinking, I don't know what they're thinking, or they're not thinking. But it's like, you can't come back from this. If he really pulls it off, your country's done. And it's like, we know that, but we don't know how to stop it. But it's serious. Like, they used to be a liberal democracy. And now they're a mess. Now if an artist draws a parliament, 12 years in jail. 12 years in jail for drawing the parliament. And then it's like, okay, then she meets with her lawyer, 5 more years for shaking the hand of a man.
Right, yeah.
And there are people, and you don't think about this, but there are people in Iran that think this is a really good thing. When they came down hard and they got rid of all the intellectuals and they get everybody with a passport's an asshole and everybody all the artists fuck them, when a lot of those people split to California. That's why there's this huge population
big
of super fucking smart Persians in California but we are the recipients of all their intelligence and brain power, where that should have been Iran's. You can't throw away the elites,
Yeah.
Or now we're seeing the deep state. It's the deep state. My mother-in-law's in the deep state. People in the deep states are competent people that do their job. They don't want that much money. They're not trying to get rich, and they're not trying to get famous. They're just doing their jobs to the best of their ability, and that's how this system functions. Otherwise, you just become corrupt. He's getting rid of all those people because they're the deep state. Right. But he's got people all paranoid that there's nothing nefarious about the deep state. The deep state are the competent people that run things.
Right, exactly, who don't want any attention.
In a weird way, most of the people listening to this are part of the deep society. If you're a plumber, you're not doing your plumbing wrong. You're doing it to the best of your abilities, and you're probably quite good at it. You're doing your job, and you're making things work. Like, what if we took the plumber out and said, we're going to put my nephew in there who don't know how to do no plumbing? That would destroy your business, But you can't do that with the government either. There are people in our country, and 90% of the people in the country are out there doing their damn jobs.
Right.
And doing them well. And a lot of these people seem fucking stupid because they've never been that involved in politics, and they're not used to people lying to them for no fucking reason. So, but I guarantee you, if you're an electrician, you're doing a really good job, and you're very competent, and you wouldn't even think about doing a half-assed job,
One of the reasons why we can talk for an hour about politics on this, and it makes sense with you, is that you've always been good at doing the reflection of just that little reflection of society back to itself.
Right.
You're going to the store to buy some cereal. Here's a little funny comment about the way that what you're eating, what you're consuming, all the you've.
But some of the stuff works.
That's why I'm saying I like the fact that you're talking about this, because I feel like you've always been working on how society looks at itself, and when they actually get that one little hint of hey, do you know what's actually kind of happening, they do react and they do care.
Yeah, and nobody's going to immediately go, wow, I was wrong. Nobody's ever said those two words except me just now. So, yeah, you have to kind of just be patient and let people, they have to come to it on their own terms. It's like every now and then somebody will say something like, well, what would be a good source? It's like, okay, that's a crack in their armor. If they say, what is a good source? Where should I be looking for information? It's like, fuck, that's your moment to give them real places to find real information. People? Well, I mean, if Trump calls it fake news, it's probably a legitimate news source, you know?
Right.
No, it's like there's a million news sources that are just making up stuff, you know? And if it triggers you and you think, that's great, I'm glad somebody finally outed Hillary for being a child molester, it's like, look at the source and look at the reason for that source being, you know? We're getting played really bad, and we got to stop it, you know? But no, the New York Times is still legit, and yes, they you know, what Judith Miller was a complete screw up and got us into war with the wrong country and yada yada. I mean, they dropped the ball, but they're trying, you know, and they have real reporters in the field. They're not a bunch of talking heads. They're not sitting in their basement making up stuff. You know, there are people out there seeing what's really happening, and there's very, very few. It's becoming fewer and fewer actual news sources. So,
when you put work in the public space and you're kind of asking people to stop and look at it and have a moment for it, do you at all feel like you're force feeding? Or
no, because it's humorous. Yeah, it's humorous, and it just throws you off a little bit, and I'm making you finish it. So we're having a conversation, even though it seems very one-sided. But you have to think about what does that mean? It's Think Different with Charles Manson. Would they do that? You know, but do you think, well, what would they do? How far would people go, and what's on limits and off limits? No, the main thing about being an artist, the first thing they teach you is just question everything.
Right.
And most people don't do that. They don't do that because you're tribal, and, you know, I built my life around Christianity. Like my wife says, you know, it's the Christianity thing. That's one of the underlying flaws of the right, is because their basic premise of life is wrong. And so it's easy to fool them because they believe a magic Jew flew up into the sky or whatever. They got some weird idea of something that didn't really happen. Do you know what I mean? And they couldn't care less if you find earlier text before, you know, but there wasn't a virgin birth for the first couple hundred years. They added that 200 years later. They don't care. Yeah. Well, God made a mistake and he fixed it. So there you go. Jesus didn't walk on water in the early renditions of the Bible. They see him. He's standing on the shoreline. It's foggy. They're going, he was so beautiful, and the way the light shone on his robe, and it almost appeared as if he was standing on the water. And later, let's just make him standing on the water, you know? Do you think Jesus really, you think one of his big things to his followers is like, you know, you got to pay your taxes, you know? Do you think that fucker ever said that? No, he didn't. He was a revolutionary. He didn't say that. No, but when the Romans said, you know what, we're going to make this a state religion, how about if we take out the part where we kill God? Could we lose that part? And they're like, yeah, well, you know, we need to...
The power of a good
Well,
edit.
right now you're throwing us to the lion, so, like, if we can make some compromises, because that's not fun for us, you know, so, like, yeah, well how about we'll have Pontius Pilate wash his hands, and this will be the statement that, the Romans aren't responsible for crucifying your God. But of course they were. The Jews couldn't crucify Christ. But the problem is now they're the guilty ones, but they're not going to. That's their guy. They're not going to crucify him, but let's make them guilty so that the Romans could be innocent. So if you do that, okay, we're in there. And you know that part where he says we're going to fertilize the soil with the blood of the Romans? What if we change that to render unto Caesar's what Caesar's, you know, and, like, you know, pay your taxes, you know? And they're probably like, well, okay, we can live with that, you know? I guess you got it, you know, but you can see what the Romans changed, you know?
I think what you're getting at, too, here is, like, the idea that you can live by certain values that you've learned, but they don't have to be literal. Like, not everything has to actually happen in some walking on water and these kinds. It's like, just live by the good values. You don't have to be so literal.
But that's different. I mean, I love the Bible probably more than anybody. I've read it probably more than anybody. I've read earlier versions more than anybody. But, you know, I don't see it as like this actually happened.
Right,
I feel like it's kind of like we're trying to conceptualize big ideas in poetic ways, you know. And so we have a shared poetry as a society that binds us together. But if you take it too literally, then you're going to leave yourself open to being lied to, you know. So, like, if I go see a Hollywood movie, I don't think that's real. But I think that has a reality to it, emotional reality to it. Do you know what I mean? Right. But I know that didn't really happen. but I understand there was a protagonist and there was a hero, and it's the hero's journey. And
just like there's elements of Orwell's 1984 or Huxley's Brave New World that actually happen. I mean, that kind of have played out. Have played out, but they are sort of overall interpretations of how totalitarian governments might react to its people or treat its people.
Right.
So if in 250 years, 500 years, people read that and they go like, well, yeah, in 1932 they were giving people somas. It's like, no, that comes later.
Yeah.
That comes in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, I did a rock opera at the Millennium called Revelations Book 2, and it's like it came out, and everything, and it was about the second coming of Christ. Everything has come to pass that I said in 2000.
Really?
No. Boy, why do I always have to say no?
Yeah,
I'm
if
goddamn
you would have
liberal.
said yes, you would have been.
I know.
It would have contradicted everything.
I would have
you
sold
just
a lot
said.
more records. Yeah. If you're like, oh, that's how did? No, I didn't even think about that. But right, the same day the buildings hit, and we our studio's like right across the river.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So and at one point, everybody's kind of in some weird panic mode, and then and this one woman comes running up to me and says, "You knew? How did you know?" And They had this group of people that listened to Revelations, the record, and they could sing a lot of the songs, and they had all the lyrics printed out, and they were just like a little Revelations club or whatever, and they were having fun with it. But it's like, you knew, 9/11. I'm like, well, 9/11's my daughter's birthday, so like if I needed a date, I'm going to use that so I can remember it or whatever. But you're thinking, wow, okay, I didn't predict this, okay. But, as a matter of fact, though, one of my mafia friends, rented him for the first World Trade Center, he rented him the space.
Whoa.
And I'm like, why'd you do that? It's like, well, they paid cash. I don't know what they were up to. I didn't think they were up to no good. I thought maybe they're making drugs or something. I don't know.
Are you a conspiracy theory guy?
No.
You don't come across.
Okay, but I do have like. Okay.
Yeah, what are the ones?
Okay, one night I'm with one of my Jersey mobby kind of guys or whatever. And and we're just sitting at a bar, and he just starts crying hysterically. And he says, I killed those people. And I'm like, what people did you kill? He goes, I killed the people in the World Trade Center. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, we had the contract. The contract that, because they keep trying to figure out why. There's 17 inches of insulation foam. And it didn't hold up. Did it all get blown off when the planes hit? What happened? Why didn't that work? Why didn't that insulate the beams? That was the big question at the time.
Yeah, right.
Because we never fucking put it on. We stole the money, built swimming pools in Long Island. We didn't put it on. So kind of in a way, I think, well, that makes sense that, all these scientists are trying to figure out why the insulation foam didn't protect the beams.
It's not
it's
there.
like because it wasn't there.
Right.
But they never think about that. They never think about, well, we gave the job to mobsters and they didn't do it.
Right. Like there's certain things that are.
Why did Building 7 come down? Man, a lot of people are like, that just came down. It's like, do you understand that was Giuliani's headquarters? Do you understand that after the first 9/11, they had to have a command center, and they were, the prevailing knowledge was you have to put it in Brooklyn, because guess what? They want to hit downtown. That's where all the targets are. That's the target-rich environment. And Giuliani, America's mayor, the hero of 9/11, said, I don't do Brooklyn. You know where he built his command center? Building 7. They put, like, the whole basement was filled with all this propane and stuff so that they could actually manage to be in there for almost a year without any outside connection. Because that was the concept of the command center. Like, if things really went to hell, we have enough fuel. So the whole thing was just, it was like a pool of millions of gallons of fuel underneath. So as soon as something came down from the big center and lit the fire there, it caught that, and that just destroyed the building very quickly. And that's why they pulled the firemen. They're like, we know what's in there.
Right.
We know that thing is full of propane and it's going down.
Right.
But it wasn't. They didn't pull the building because there's some magical secret government documents in there or something. It was because Giuliani put his command center in the wrong place. And, thank God, at least now people are realizing who Giuliani is.
Yeah.
Because back then, because he was running up and down the streets because he had no command center. If his command center had been in Brooklyn, he would have been running across the Brooklyn Bridge, running the show from there.
Right.
But no, he it's like, where's my command center? It went down.
Yeah, he
and that's why he's on the streets. But it gave the image of him, being the
superhero.
hero.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. He was
My only conspiracy theory is I always question the moon landing.
Nah, they went to the moon.
You think they went to the moon?
Yeah.
I just want it to be.
But also, you think it's depressing. It's depressing. We went to the moon, and we were going forward, and there was so much hope, and then it ended.
Yeah, I think that's why.
Because it's way too expensive, and there's not much
and there's
up
nothing
there.
there.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't want to tell us
and it's
that.
super dangerous,
Yeah.
and we also don't like the concept of killing astronauts. And,
no, because it's public and it's
right. It kind of holds us together as a nation. It's part
Yeah.
of it's a mythology that holds us together.
Right.
You know.
What? We've gone all over the place here.
Yeah.
Wait, so
but
why?
That's a great thing about podcasts because, every time you do an interview, you go like, I make toys. Oh, goody. Okay,
Right,
bye.
exactly. Yeah.
You know?
But actually, we should. Why? What are you doing here at DesignerCon? I feel like we should touch on that because I feel.
Oh, I'm here with Pop Life, and so they bring me out every year, and then I sign stuff at their booth.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to talk about this stuff. And now everybody's listening.
Yeah.
No, but we have a giant shipping container, stuck in the port. So that's why we're selling like the rest of our inventory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we don't have like all this great stuff we brought to make this epic exhibit is trapped. So we're
It's
having all
stuck in
kinds.
Long Beach
so
right now?
we're yeah. I mean everything is. The ports are messed up. Coming in from Mexico, so we went down there when we're building the border. But you learn a lot when you're building the border, or when we're building our fake border wall.
Yeah.
But so we go in and we meet with the museum there. And they're going to help us actually fund part of the wall to be on the Mexican side, and they're giving us land there and stuff. But, to come back, you used to be able to go back and forth in 20 minutes. You just walk across. You walk back over. Right. But now it's like they got trucks backed up for 3 days. All the producers rotting. They put 2 people in there to run the whole show. One of our guys got flagged because he had a green card because he's from Holland, and then they were going to let him back into the country, and then he's suddenly realizing, because, it's very enlightened for him to go down there and see what's really going on. Because a lot of people don't know what's going on. Like when I took Daniel LaHoda to Palestine, he goes, oh, shit. I had no idea as an American because they don't tell us. And the weird thing about Palestine is CNN was there, CNBC was there, and they're all standing around going we don't know why we're here because we are not allowed to tell people what's going on here. So we don't know why we're here.
Right. It's almost
and we're here in case maybe they run over you with a tank or something, I guess. I don't know. But it's just like, we don't even know why they even bother to send us because they're not.
We're here for the potential tragedy. That
but they're not going to tell us what's really. They do not tell the American people what's really going on there because that doesn't fit the narrative.
Well,
and the same thing there.
And they have to re-explain the narrative.
So all the mess they create right there, but also it's a show because for about 10 miles there's hundreds of agents and helicopters, and we built at the Butterfly Center. They're cutting their land in half, so we built a wall there for them, and then they're going to actually be able to auction it off and raise money because they're destroying. They're cutting the land in half, even though maybe they're a mile in from where the actual border is supposed to be. They're just taking their land. It's a land grab, and they conspiracy theory. They're like, we want to show you something. They're building a pipeline. Now, I don't know if they're building a pipeline. I see a lot of stuff. I don't know if that's. I don't.
Right.
But I don't know if that's a pipeline. But they're convinced it's like they're just stealing the land to build a pipeline. I don't know if that's true, but they showed us a lot of stuff, and we thought maybe that's true. I don't know, but they're definitely cutting their land in half. They're taking way more than they need.
That's the kind of stuff that would at least make sense then to me.
Yeah. But the thing is, okay. But the thing
you'd
is,
be like, okay, all right.
But the interesting thing is, it's like every third car is a border patrol. It's all the press is there. That's where they go. And then we drive 10 miles down the road. And that's that famous picture of me walking through the border. Yeah. It's just wide open. They got the big fence, and then it just ends, and then it starts again. And it's just wide open. And people are just wandering over, So how come you got thousands of people 10 miles down the road? And then, so I just have to walk. Maybe it was even 5 miles. It wasn't that far. But, it's here's where the show's at. And if you really want to walk across, go down there. Because we need you. We need some labor. So, but here's where the show is.
Right. Right. It's all fucked up.
I don't know.
It's all fucked up.
Yeah.
But when you, I was thinking about this when you did the politics issue for Juxtapoz and you curated that issue, and I went to your house and we kind of mapped out what we were going to do. I feel like we thought things were a little bit more positive then, but I think that's because we had 4 years of Obama and things weren't that bad.
Right. Well, also I just think
not to say
negativity doesn't do anything for anybody. Negativity helps the evil.
Right.
Right, and positivity helps the good. So we were trying to stay positive.
Right. Yeah, and I think we weren't trying to make a political statement with that issue. It was just about artists who worked in that practice.
And because a lot don't now. A lot of people are too scared to be in politics. And a lot of, but also this is like another one of my pet peeves. a lot of my friends are always complaining, there's no political songs anymore. Back in the 60s, boy, there were these, these great songs, and
Right.
and it's like, I just did 3 political rock operas.
Right.
Listen to one. Oh, yeah, but, Bob Dylan isn't doing anything. Well, Bob Dylan, when Trump got elected, his audience didn't applaud for anything. He just sitting there playing for him, and then he goes, "What's wrong with the audience?" And his musicians are like, "Do you not know what happened?" He goes, "What happened?" And he goes, "Well, that guy Trump got elected." Oh, huh.
And back to playing hits.
No, but he's just like he's not Bob Dylan anymore. He's a
Right.
guy that goes around pretending to be Bob Dylan, but I mean, he's not the young '60s radical.
Yeah, I mean, he
But we have these people, but nobody will pay them any attention. The same people that, bitch to me about there's no political music out there won't listen to my records.
Right.
Or promote them or help me with it. Instead, they just bitch,
We had a great podcast with Molly Crabapple earlier this year, and she's still fighting the good fight.
No, she's good. She's good.
Yeah.
She's in the game.
Yeah, she's like...
Yeah. And she gets a certain amount of attention. She would get a lot more, Abby Hoffman got a lot more attention than she did, and she's our Abby Hoffman.
Yeah,
so.
okay.
But no, she is good, and she's rare.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are people here, but nobody's giving them any oxygen or attention.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And so that's other people's fault,
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit of you guys had your moment in the Obama years, and now it's time to kind of, we're not going to talk about it. You guys don't get your attention anymore. Or,
maybe.
I don't know. It just seems...
Or the media is on lockdown. Somebody came out of a meeting to CNBC, and then somebody I know that works there, and they were like, we're thinking about going all Trump all the time. I mean, pro-Trump. Because we're getting frustrated that Fox is making more news, although we are making more money than we ever have in the history of this network. So there you go. Everybody's making money. Everybody, so a lot of people are just like, well, we're not going to do the news because it's too expensive. We found a way to just make money all day long. It's a great formula. Trump tweets. We bring a bunch of people on all day. We don't pay them.
Right.
We don't pay them. But, they have books, so they'll make money. It's okay. And then they just talk for free, and it costs us nothing to make these shows. It's brilliant. And we got more people watching, more people in a tizzy. It's the biggest, greatest soap opera ever, and it's aired on all 3 channels. And maybe more people are watching it on Fox than on our channel, but we're doing okay. We're doing okay. We're not sure. We're not sure if we're ready for there not to be a Trump, because we're used to all this money flowing in.
That's the thing that concerns me, is that people worried about the no Trump years when the news isn't as electrifying, because the presidency really isn't supposed to be an electrifying daily thing. You're really supposed to only hear from the president once a week.
Or that was traditionally, yeah.
Traditionally,
yeah.
Like,
or not at all. He's doing his job.
Yeah.
And people always said, hey, you want to have a beer with Obama? And I'm like, I don't have a beer with Obama. I want him to do his job.
Right, exactly.
I'll have a beer with my friends that,
Right.
don't have as difficult of jobs.
When Obama's done, maybe I'll have a beer with him. But I really don't want to know anything about his workout schedule.
Right.
Or I don't want to know about Trump's golfing. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just do your job. Do you watch any TV shows? Are you a TV guy?
Oh, yeah, I
Are
like
you a
TV,
Netflix
yeah.
guy? Are you watching Secession? Did you watch it on HBO?
Secession. Yes.
That-
Yeah. That was a good show.
That to
yeah.
me,
But it had a happy ending, so.
so far.
No, it's over.
Is it over? Is it
Yeah,
over?
yeah,
Over?
that's it, yeah.
Oh, that was a great ending then. This isn't going to have a happy ending, though, is it? Real life isn't going to have a happy ending.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Nixon,
But the weird thing about
Nixon, all this stuff.
But everybody goes, well, history's going to frown upon you. Not if you win, man.
Yeah.
If he wins and becomes dictator of the United States, the history books are going to talk about this great man that saved America.
Right.
And that's going to be everybody's going to think that. Nobody's going to be a dissident. If they do, they're going to keep their mouth shut about it. So if he wins, then history's going to treat him very well. If he loses, it's going to be, whoops. He's going to be just like, oh my God, what were we thinking? But it depends on whether he wins or not,
So are you planning, besides the...
But how's he going to deal with Trump, Putin? So, okay, let's say he becomes a dictator of the United States. Okay, now at some point, does he kick Putin to the curb? Or is he just too much of a mentor for him that he's going to keep him?
I know.
Because we're a way bigger and more powerful country than Russia.
Right. Yeah.
But we're letting them bully us now. Why?
Yeah, and like when Trump really finds out that we actually are more powerful, it seems like he hasn't figured that out
No, I think he knows, but also Putin helped him come to power.
Yeah, so he's
Manafort
being
took the
friendly to
playbook
him.
from Putin.
Yeah.
They were talking to each other. Here's how you do it. And he's doing everything the right way. He's ticking off all the boxes. So he knows what he's doing. And now, can he pull it off on this country? I don't know. Maybe we were asleep. Maybe he can do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So if he wins, history books are going to be very kind to him. I still don't know what his relationship's going to be. If he actually becomes a dictator, gets rid of the free press, outlaws, he's saying let's not be able to criticize, politicians anymore. If he pulls all that off, what happens? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how's he going to deal with Putin after that.
Do you have...
But, it's Obama's fault, too, because, the NSA, he built up this huge spy network, a fourth unaccountable branch of government, and then sort of there was the idea, well, maybe he's a decent person. I don't know. But what happens when a despot gets a hold of all this and can know what we all do and think and walk and,
Right.
Then what?
Right.
So, Obama kind of set him up, He gave him the tools.
Right.
And the tools were not meant for a criminal. They were meant for a patriot.
Do you have things planned in 2020, regardless of candidate, in terms of like your political practice? Like if it's Bernie Sanders or if it's Elizabeth Warren or if it's Mayor Pete or whatever, do you have anything planned, or are you just watching it and waiting to see what happens?
I don't even have dinner planned today, so.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way.
No. I have. As soon as this year ends, I have nothing. I don't have any more shows. I don't have anything. Okay. It's all over. But that's another. Back in the old days, I had stuff planned out 5 years.
Right.
But like about 5 weeks ago, they said, "Hey, do you want a space in Art Basel?" And so now we're doing that pop-up. So I didn't know that was happening. Everything happens super fast now. So it's like you want your plate clean so you can take bigger opportunities.
Right.
So, but yeah, I do believe in that once we get a candidate, we have to support them and push for them, and I'll find some way to do that.
Do you still find joy in just sitting in your studio and painting? Is that your favorite thing to do?
Yeah, I feel like all this other stuff in a weird way is I'm paying my dues. I'm buying time in the studio so I can do what I really want to do.
Right. Okay.
The two things I like to do is paint and make music. You know, and everything else is, if nobody knows who you are, nobody's going to buy your paintings. It's not going to happen,
Right.
So,
right.
I could be a lot better at this kind of stuff. I can make art that's a lot easier to stomach, so I haven't really brought myself to a point where I can just make banal, cute art that sells super easy. Or
right.
I don't know, I'm still kind of a rebel, but yeah, I'm still trying to buy time in the studio, and
right.
I still think that I have a lot to say with paint.
Yeah.
That's where that I really am something special.
You're an amazing painter, but does that?
But I have great ideas, And
yeah.
I'm at a high level, and maybe I got 10 more years before I won't even be able to do it anymore. So, I would like to be in the studio as much as I can.
But do you still feel like there's the power of the history of the painting that still means so much to you? Like just the idea that paintings there's this standing the test of time kind of thing with paintings.
Oh yeah, and
does
also,
that still kind of move you?
Yes, and the thing about if you're a painter, I'm gonna go to somebody's painting show and see 10 times more than anybody else is seeing that show. Like somebody that's a super fan of sports, they're gonna have a far deeper experience watching a football game than I would.
Right.
I'm gonna know who won and who lost, but if you know the minutia of it, you can actually have a lot deeper experience. And it's the same with painting. If you're really into painting, to me, it's like I get the immense joy from seeing other painters and especially people that operate at a super high level. And there's not a lot of them, but I appreciate them, I think, more than other people can.
Who are the contemporary painters that you like?
Well, this is kind of like a great time. I know, I agree with you. But everybody, especially when you get to be my age or this age where you're completely matured, like say somebody like Alex Gray.
Yeah.
That guy is a phenomenon. Him and his wife Allison, they're
up by you, correct?
They're by me, yeah. But they are operating on a super, super, super high level. It took them a lifetime to get there.
He's a magical guy.
Yeah.
And I don't say that about too many people, but when you talk to him, you're like, oh, this guy's special.
Yeah, they're super, super smart. His wife, Allison's super smart.
Yep.
And just seeing somebody exist at that level is amazing, And Mark Ryden exists at that level, you know. And his paintings are they're just like the weird childhood dream fantasies, or he sees it like almost more real than it was,
Yeah.
So yeah,
and
there's
he's a beautiful painter. He's just a great painter.
And also, I noticed that the people I believe are truly, truly great are just weirdly humble, and it's almost like they don't have to tell you they're great. Like
Right.
they know that they don't care about that. That's not what they're interested in. They're interested in just like, I'm going to put everything I can onto that canvas, and I don't have to jump up and down and point at it or tell,
I get that feeling from Mark Ryden a lot.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
there's no pretension.
Right, because he doesn't have time for that.
Yeah,
Because all of his
exactly.
energy is going into that painting.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't, I could name other people that jump up and down, go, I'm a legend, look at me, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, right, you wrote your name on a wall, great.
Yeah,
You know?
right. I mean,
yeah.
I love like Christian Rex Van Minen's paintings
Yeah.
as kind of the generation after you, or maybe a couple generations after you.
But you're living through, and you're the epicenter of actually what is a renaissance. There has never been this much good art being produced.
I agree.
And it's being produced at a high level because artists are a lot more aware of everything that's going on in the world. They have access to more information, and you can't be a schmuck. You have to be in the game and get any kind of respect. You can't get away with what you used to be able to get away with.
I feel like I'm in a there's a period of time right now where it's almost overwhelming, the talent in every part of the world.
Right.
Like, there's so many there's so many people doing such good stuff.
Right.
I just the other day was looking at this great painter from Hungary. It's like I never really had access to those kind of scenes before. Now it's
right. But this painter is also aware of what we're doing and what people are doing in China.
Yeah.
Where that wouldn't have happened before. Even if you were like in New York, the epicenter of the art world, it was still a small group of people kind of competing against each other.
Yeah.
And think of like, I live in a small town and I am the best basketball player in my town. And you know what? There's nothing to push me to be a better basketball player because I beat everybody. But then when you put me on a global stage, there's a guy in China that's going to kick my ass. And then now I have to beat that guy. So like all these artists are seeing everybody, and now they have to really get any attention, you have to be better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's a higher level of competition.
So you think competition's good in the art world?
I think competition's
technical
competition is good, and critique is good, in all professions.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to ever destroy your opponent. You want to make your opponent better so you can beat them again.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, but you want them to do great too. But you want to use that energy of like, even when we started doing the billboards, I thought I was like really good at it, and I'm doing stuff, and then this guy Jeff Robinson jumps in, another young painter, and he does some pretty cool stuff, and I think, okay, next time we go out, I got to beat him, and I would do something better, and you know what I mean? So, but we were all competing against each other, but we were all best friends too. We all hoped the best for each other, and we were on the same side, and so I think some people mistake competition as like it's a destructive force, that you don't destroy your opponent, you make your opponent better.
Yeah.
So you can compete with them so you can always stay on the same level and when we get to a higher level, I want you on that higher level with me
Right.
so we can push the culture forward,